That's not what our biggest hindrance to Nibbana is. There is one thing that is the biggest hindrance to Nibbana, which is true for all of us. And that is that you haven't been diagnosed with terminal cancer yet. That is the biggest hindrance to Nibbana. You have not yet been diagnosed with terminal cancer. What if you fainted today? You were rushed to the hospital and you got diagnosed with terminal cancer. Which excuse are you now willing to offer? To say, this is why I cannot practice the path. This is why I don't have the time. These are all the duties and responsibilities I have, and therefore I just don't have the time to practice the path. Which excuse are you going to give? Is it your mortgage? Is it your husband? Is it your wife? Is it your child? Which one? Is it that I need 8 hours of sleep? Which one? I know this because a lot of people do come to the monastery. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. It really is unbelievable. How a lot of people come and they want to talk to us. People who came and went, they had no intention of coming and listening to a sermon. Until they were diagnosed with a terminal illness. And when they are, now they want to come and listen to the Dhamma. Now they want to understand the path to Nibbana. Now they don't have time to waste. So these are all people surely that didn't realize that they could die any moment. Before they were diagnosed, what did they think then? I'm not going to die. Not anytime soon, right? That's what they thought. Because otherwise, why is it after someone's been diagnosed with a terminal illness, the very next day they're here, 6 o'clock in the morning? Why? Why did they not feel to do that the previous day? The day before they were diagnosed? Because they thought they were invincible. I cannot be touched. I'm invincible. Not invisible, invincible. I cannot be touched. Mara cannot get me, death cannot come anywhere near me. Do you feel like that? What excuses do you have to practice in the path? Is it because you're too busy? Because I do tell you every time, remember, don't forget this, and sometimes I wish I could give you the feeling with which I express these words. But alas, I can only give you the words. I cannot convey the feeling that I have in my heart when I say some of these things, in my mind when I say some of these things, such as, I can only give you the 20% while you're here. 80% of practice in the path you have to do in your own time. And your own time is time you have to find for yourself. It's while you're at work, it's while you're at school, it's while you're getting to work, it's while you're getting back from school. It's while you're chopping your carrots, doing the dishes, doing your laundry. You've got to find the time. Am I going to find the time for you to practice the path? How can I do that? I can't do that. You are living your life. I'm living mine. So it's down to each and every one of us to find the time to practice. It's practice that makes perfect. I can only give you a very small portion of what you need. The doctor can only give you the prescription. It's down to each and every patient to get themselves the medicines and then drink it. Until when? Until they've been cured. Can the doctor force feed medicines to this patient? No, there is no such mechanism. Certainly not in Buddhism. If it's at the hospital, they might be able to hold your mouth forcefully and put the drugs in your mouth and put some water so that you drink it whether you like it or not. But with the Dhamma you can't do that. Because your mind has to be willing to accept. I can't brainwash you to understand Nibbana, to accept that Nibbana is the only salvation. Nibbana is the only freedom. I can't brainwash you to do that. It has to come from within. Now I'm not saying any of this out of spite. Please don't take it that way. But you must really consider this. I guarantee that people who come along, listen to sermons, whether here or anywhere else, once you've been diagnosed with cancer, terminal cancer, you will not fall asleep from that point forward. It just won't happen. Why? Now you don't know when. I've only got such a short time within which I can do this. So every second matters. Every minute, every hour matters. But until such time, I've got time. If not today, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the day after. Do you not really feel sorry for yourself? If the reason that you are able to find excuses to not practicing the path is that you have not yet been diagnosed with a terminal illness, if that is the reason that you are able to come up with excuses to not practicing the path, shouldn't you pity yourself? This is something I said with our young monks, to remind them how earnestly and how vigorously they have to practice the path. So don't think this is something I'm taking on you, but this is something I told them at the monastery, and something I thought I should share with you. Remember, only 20% we can give here. The rest, 80%, has to happen at home. It has to happen at your workplace. It has to happen at the playground. It has to happen while you're doing your chores at home. Are you doing them? If not, then you're probably wasting your time coming here. You're probably wasting your money coming here. A Sunday afternoon, you could have done lots of things. If you're not practicing, then it really is very little point in coming along. You're just occupying someone else's seat. Am I sounding too harsh? That's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. I'm only saying this because I feel for you. You know, if only I was able to convince you all to ordain, I would do that. But I can't. One, because, well, of course, you have duties and responsibilities. I can't take them on upon myself to solve them so that you can come and ordain. And also, secondly, because sometimes, there may not be the environment suitable for you to come and ordain. But if neither of these two are reasons, then if it was down to me, I would make you all ordain. I would ordain you by force if it was down to me. The reason I say this is because once you have come to this life, then every moment that passes by is a moment for you to practice the path. I have no excuse. Unlike you, I have no excuse because I don't have a family to feed. I don't have a job to do. I don't have any of those things. 24/7, except for the few hours while I'm sleeping. The rest of the time is time that I have to practice. I get to practice, not have to practice, I get to practice. But I do understand that for you, there are duties and responsibilities and chores that you have to attend to. So you may not have the freedom that I have. And the way I see it, you've been sold the short straw. It is such a pity. Because you and I, we have to sit the same paper at the end of this process. We are both studying for the same exam. Are we not? At the end of this course, you and I are both going to sit the same paper. Just because I'm a monk and you're a lay person doesn't mean you get a different paper to me. There are no leniences that are extended to you. You don't get extra time because you're a lay person. This paper, that is the paper of samsara. At the end of this birth, at the end of this lifetime, when your last breath falls, you're going to get that paper. On that paper is going to be how much raga do you still have? How much dvesha do you have? How much moha do you have? What Margapala have you achieved? These are the questions they're going to ask you. I have every hour of every day to study for this exam. Whereas you have whatever time is left after you have attended to everything there is you have to do at home, at work. Is it not unfair that we both get the same paper? Is it not unfair? It's so unfair. I admit, it's very unfair. But who can challenge? Who are you going to complain to? Where can you file a complaint? Where can you go and file a complaint and say, well, I was a doctor, so I had patients to attend to. And attending patients, that took up several hours of my day. About 10, 12 hours of my day I was treating patients. I only had maybe another 10 hours free, and in those 10 hours I had to feed my family, I had to take my children to school, I had to be with my wife, I had to watch TV to catch up on the latest going-ons in the world, I had to go and do other courses to get other qualifications, I had to go and travel the world to get more experience, and then I was only left with 15 minutes every day in which I could practice the path. Who are you going to say that to? No one's going to stand there and ask you, what are your extenuating circumstances? No one's going to ask you that. They're just going to give you the paper. And you're going to say, oh, excuse me, no, I don't want to hear. Can you imagine that? You and I will both be sat down for that paper. I'll be in a robe, you'll be in whatever uniform that you go to work in. If you're a doctor, you'll have a stet around your neck. If you're an engineer, you'll be sat in front of a computer possibly. If you're a lawyer, you'll be there with a mallet in your hand, right? And we're all sat down. Examiner comes in, same paper for all of us. How do you think we're going to fare? I've been studying every day, every hour, every moment I'm awake, studying for my exam. You've been studying 15 minutes a day. How do you think we're going to fare? Is it not so unfair we're going to get the same paper? It is so incredibly unfair. But what can we do about it? Nothing can be done about it. This is why I say, if it was down to me, I would force ordain all of you. Because I don't know how I can get this into your skulls. I would force ordain all of you if I could. Because at least then I could tie you up, sit you down, and talk the Dhamma to you and do nothing else. Until you understand. Until you realize that Raga, Dvesha, Moha has to be eradicated. And this is the path to do it. I really want you to get the feeling I'm trying to express here, ladies and gentlemen. And words do not do justice. I must admit, words do not do justice. So, every day, ask yourself, how am I doing on the path? It has to be something you do regularly. Like you check your tires before you set off on a journey. Like you check your oil in the fuel tank before you set off on a journey. Every day, check where are you on the journey. Before you go to bed, make sure you scrutinize the last 24 hours. How did I perform? Have yourself a report card. At the end of every day, ask yourself, how did I perform in the last 24 hours? Did I fall into the trap of Mara? When Raga came into my mind, how did I perform? A self-evaluation, essential, absolutely essential. How many times today did I become angry? How many times today did I make the wrong decision? When I had 15 minutes where I could listen to the Dhamma, did I go and choose to use those 15 minutes to watch TV for no reason other than just because TV is there, channels on, might as well? Remember, you've just whiled away 15 minutes of valuable human life that you can never get back. Am I saying don't watch TV? That's not what I'm saying. Am I saying don't spend time with your children? That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is be very careful, be very intelligent, be very thrifty with your human life. Be very wise about how you spend it. Because if you make the wrong investment, you're going to suffer. Make the right investment and you're going to get payback. For good or bad, all you have is your human life. And unfortunately, each and every one of us has to suffer the consequences ourselves. Your best friend can't step in to help you out. Your mother, your father, your daughter, your son, they can't step in to share the consequences if you have made the wrong investment. They brought you into this world, yes, your parents did, but they can't suffer on your behalf. They can't share your pain. You have to do it yourself. So be thrifty. Be very careful about how you spend your time. Many million times more than how you spend your money. Money can be earned if you misspend it. But what about time? Can you buy it back? No. This is why sometimes say, right, a person spends 10 years working at the same organization. 10 long years they labor at the same organization in the hope of achieving pleasure and happiness. 10 years later they realize that job never really made me happy. Now I challenge you. You might have earned a lot of money by working in that job. Maybe you made $1 million by working there. But one day you realize happiness is not in earning millions. Now, how can you go back to your employer and say, here's the $1 million that I earned while I was working at your company. Can I have back my 10 years, please? Can you do that? No. Because this is a one-way transaction, no return, no refunds. Sold as seen on TV. That's it. You can't give your money back and ask back for time. So this moment, right, this very moment that you're spending, can you get this back? This moment? This second? Can you get it back? No. So should you not be careful how you spend this moment? See, it's past. Now you can't get it back. And that moment, that's also gone. And you can't get that back. It's like water dripping from a tap. You can't put that drop back into the tap. It's gone now. If you had collected it, you could have made use of it. But if that water has just flown away, you can't get it back. Much the same like your life. Every second that's ticking by is time that's never going to come back. So this very moment, you have to choose wisely what you do with it. Ask yourselves, do you always come up with excuses to practice the path? Oftentimes I tell you, before coming along to sermons, listen to previous sermons. And I know there are some among you who do. But there are others who will come up with excuses rather than having listened to a sermon. Excuse will be, I was too busy. I had somewhere to go. Work. School. This, that and the other. What about the time you're sat on the toilet? How much do you have to think about that process? When I was a layperson, I used to have a speaker. It was a Bluetooth speaker. I had it plugged into my bathroom. And so when I was at the toilet, before I went, I played on my phone, I pressed the play button, I was to be a sermon. So if I was there in the shower for 15 minutes, I could listen to the sermon in the background. I might not take all of it because I'm involved in something else, but it might be just one or two things that might change my life. At least that day I might live differently. because I got to listen to that sermon. Maybe just 15 minutes. That's all that's needed. You don't need a lot, remember. It's 20% you need. The rest, 80% is in application. What about your commute to work? Are you still listening to your FMs on the way to work? Or are you listening to a sermon on the way to work? The world and its dog will want you to listen to the FMs, radio stations. They'll play beautiful music. They'll play Sinatra. They'll play Beatles. They'll play Bieber. Because that's what the world wants you to enjoy. This is a consumerized world, you mustn't forget. Whenever something's free, what's the product that's being sold? Why is Facebook free? What is the product that's being sold? You, the user. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. You should know that. If you're using something and it's given to you for free, then the product that's being sold is not the product that you're using. You are the product that's being sold. Advertising? Right? So you're listening to a radio station. Free, right? Do you have to pay to listen to a radio station? Now in this country, in other countries you do have to get a radio license, but in Sri Lanka you can listen to radio for free. I think that is how it still is. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if you're listening to a radio station and it's free, what's the product that's being sold? If you're watching a TV channel and it's free to watch it, what is the product that's being sold? It's not the channel. It's you. You are being sold. To all the advertisers who are playing their adverts, who are making their money out of showing you these adverts, who are making their money out of getting you to listen to these adverts. So really, the consumer there is not you. You're not the consumer. The advertising companies, they're the consumers on whose behalf these media stations, these media channels have been made available. You are simply the product. Have you never considered that? Am I hurting your feelings? Why is Facebook free? Seriously, think about it. Does it not cost them money to come up with these, maintain these platforms, develop the technology for that? Right? Every other day there's a new update, right? So someone's working busily to produce these things and give them out to the world, and it's free. So if it's free, then how are they making their money? They're making their money through advertising. So that platform has been built for whom? For the advertisers. So what's being sold to the advertiser? You. So who's the product? You're the product. Yes or no? So what's your excuse then? If you're standing for the bus, right? Bus is in 3 minutes time. You're standing waiting for your bus to arrive. What do you generally do? Hand goes into the pocket. Out comes the phone. Phone gets unlocked. And then it's Facebook, WhatsApp, Viber, Emo, right? This, that and the other. Why not 5 minutes of listening to a sermon? That 5 minutes might transform your life. That 5 minutes might fill some gap in your understanding that is required to attain Nibbana. 5 minutes. That's all that may be needed. But no, you choose to go on Facebook. I have nothing against Facebook, by the way. I don't want Mr. Zuckerberg knocking on my door tomorrow. I have nothing against Facebook. All I'm saying is, how do you choose to use and spend your time? I used to go to the gym, when I was a layperson. Every other day I went to the gym and spent an hour and a half there, just to maintain my physical fitness. And I remember a lot of people who come to the gym, they'll have TV screens. They'll play news and movies, songs. And what people do is they plug their earphones and then they're watching the movie and watching news and all sorts. And I thought, what a waste of time that is. My body is working to improve the body. Why can't the mind work to improve the mind during that time? So I took with me my library of sermons. And that's what I listened to. Before I got to listen to sermons, it was all about productiveness. How to live a productive life, how to make a lot of money, how to make the best investments. I think I've shared some of those stories with you in the past, so I'm not going to go over all the stuff. But ever since I got taste of the Dhamma, every moment I could find, I dedicated to listening to the Dhamma. Because that is what I realized my life is worth living for. You see, the thing is this. The day you get diagnosed with a terminal illness, you will do everything I just said. Yes or no? If today you get diagnosed with terminal illness and the doctor says he gives you a maximum of 1 week, will you be spending the rest of the week exactly the same way you spent your last week? Will you? No. You know the answer. So then therefore, the reason that you spend your weeks this way and not that way is because in your mind, you're so certain of your life, aren't you? You're so certain that I'm never going to be diagnosed with cancer. I'm never going to die. I'm never going to fall ill. I'm just fine. That's what everybody thinks. Until they get the diagnosis. Everybody thinks that. The day this guy's been diagnosed, last night he went to bed thinking, I'm never going to get cancer. Because it doesn't come with warning. It just comes. When? When it's time to come, comes. No warning beforehand. So please be wise. Don't be foolish. Don't fall into the world's trap. All those immoral, ignoble people you have to meet on a day-to-day basis, at work, at school. Sometimes they could be relations. Sometimes your neighbors. You know, they don't do it out of spite. They only do it because that's all they know. They'll talk to you about the latest film that's come out. They'll say, hey, did you not watch that movie yet? Let's go out this weekend, let's go and watch a movie. I'm not saying don't do it. But what I'm saying is, what they'll only try and do is pull you towards indulging yourself in sensuality. Sensuality that can be experienced through eyes, ears, nose, tongue and body. This is what your friends, your relations, your parents will entertain if they don't understand the value of the Dhamma. Be wiser. Be the better man. Be the better woman. Don't fall into that trap. Because when it's time to suffer, they're not going to suffer on your behalf. Okay. I'm going to move on to talk to you about something which I think is really important to understand in terms of the Dhamma and how you can apply yourself. For as long as you have your eyes open, for as long as there's an object in front of you, a sight, and for as long as there's a mind, there's a process called seeing that takes place. Yes? Your eye is functioning. There's an object in front of the eye, a sight. You have a mind